Small Talk.
Hey, what's up, y'all? We're here with another episode of Small Talk where we have two queens, but today we have three queens. We have Alicia here with us. Three queens, three perspectives, one topic. Asia, what are we getting into today?
All right, y'all. So today we're just talking about allyship, right? So as you can see here, we're all Black queens. And then in the Black, community, then we have folks that consider themselves allies. And there are some positives to that, right? But then also some challenges that come along with that. So we're really just going to dig deep and talk all about that today. So to start us off, Alicia, for you, what is an ally for those that might not know?
Sure. So an ally, how I see it, I mean, I'm not, Webster's dictionary, but, for an ally, as I see it, is someone who is really able to understand maybe some of the plights that you have. And in our case as Black women, as an example, and they're able to understand it and stand with you through your journey, right? And stand with you and understand your struggles, understands where you might need someone else to, stand up in front of you and kind of protect you. And they're really just walking with you through life and your journey. So that's how I see an ally. Again, that's not an official official definition, but that's how I see an ally. That's what I think it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely agree with that. So Britt, I have a question for you though. So we have, what an ally is, right? What's the not part of it, right? So it's like, yes, this is an ally. What is not an ally? Because I feel like some people get this confused a little bit.
They sure do.
Okay, so I can go on about that for days, right? So I'm going to start with when a Black friend comes to you or a minority friend comes to you and they're talking to you about some challenges or some experiences or just feeling that hurt or that pain that we're going through, it is not then your turn to say, well, I support you because I have Black friends, or I support you because of what I did with my Black person, or I have a Black doctor or a teacher or whatever it is. It is not then your opportunity to throw that in there. We're not talking about you. We're talking about me right now and how I feel as a Black person. So, but then you want to turn around and call yourself an ally. Like, it's not about you right now. You have to learn how to just shut up and listen for the time being. And kind of let us express that. That's what being a good ally is. Just shut up and listen for a little bit, before you try and chime in, because sometimes you don't even have the right words to say. And it might trigger us in a way that you don't really
It's funny that you said that. And I was thinking to myself, a big part of being an ally is being an advocate, being a good ally, right? Is being an advocate for someone. And I think sometimes you made an example. It's like, oh, I have a Black friend, or, I do this and I do that, almost to excuse the privilege that someone else might have. And it's like, just because you've experienced some of those things doesn't put you in my shoes. So by being an ally and being an advocate means that you're using your privilege to advocate for me, right? To advocate for, for me in spaces where where I may not be seen, or where I may not be recognized, right? So I think that that's really important too, that some people just don't get. They think that, I have a Black cousin, so I'm down. And I'm like, no, that's not how any of this works. Like, that's how none of this works. And it's actually insulting when people say that, to be honest with you. I get incredibly insulted when people throw that at me, like, oh, wait, no, but I'm down. Like, I have Black friends. And I'm like, oh, you're still racist. But anyway.
I feel the same. I feel the same way about that, because I think some people think they get like an automatic ticket into like just being an ally. And it's like, well, no, there's action that goes along with that, right? It's not a title. And another thing that I cannot stand, y'all, I just cannot stand it. And I've seen it so much, especially with like Black Lives Matter, is when people that call themselves allies want to then put in their own sort of like, not their experience, but then other things that is important to them. So for instance, I have seen Black Lives Matter and animal lives matter too. We're not talking about that right now. We're just not talking about it, right? And what I've seen that a couple times where people are literally just kind of just like, because that's like the quote unquote hot topic right now, people are just throwing other stuff and then be like, well, I'm an ally because I talked about it. I brought it up. I said something, right? But then
or,
it's kind of like,
I was actually thinking when you said that, performance allyship. So we all know that when, the George Floyd murder happened and, the Black Lives Matter movement kind of had this resurgence of everybody recognizing what it was. And everyone posted, remember Blackout Tuesday, and everyone posted the black square. We like to call it the black square. And I remember being so irritated by seeing people that I was like, I know you personally. And I know that you kind of racist and you've said some things that are a little bit messed up, or you need a little more knowledge, maybe not necessarily racist, but you definitely need some more education and you need more knowledge. And I've experienced comments where you've made microaggressive statements and things like that. So, but that was all performance, because it was kind of like when the moment passed and when the fad passed, it was like, what are you doing? Are you still advocating for Black lives? Are you still amplifying Black voices and Black people? Like, what else are you doing? So I think that's the difference where it comes with advocacy, you know what I mean? Right. And that has to be coupled with it, because I do think people have the right intentions, but they don't know how to follow through with it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you have to remember, like, to be a good ally, you have to remember to be culturally responsive, right? So you keep an open mind to some of the issues that are going on, but most importantly, educate yourself. Let me tell y'all something. Truly, truly educate yourself. Why? Because I guarantee you, what you decide to learn in 28 days out of 1 month in the year, to Black History Month, is what you decide to choose to educate yourself during that time. It's a lot longer and a lot deeper than that. Because you sat in on Black History 101 and you learned about, I don't know, many of the Martin Luther King, who everybody highlights, or Malcolm X, who everybody highlights, and Harriet Tubman, as your way to say, oh, I'm an ally. Oh, I support you. Oh, I do this. No, really and truly educate yourself. Because what we're feeling is historical trauma, that oppression. We are a marginalized community, and it goes deeper than that. So these feelings of hurt and pain and everything that you see that we're displaying, whether it's on social media, talks with our friends, rallies and all this other protests and things, that's what we feel as a Black person experiencing this, because we understand what it is. We can't take this off. You know what I'm saying? But you can use your privilege. If you want to use your privilege somewhere, why not use it for the right cause and stop racism? Like, why is racism even debatable?
Why is racism a thing? Like, sometimes I think back and I'm like, why is racism even a thing? Like, it's just like, I don't understand it. It's really, that's a good point, actually. That's a really good point. We can't take off our skin. So it's like, you have to educate yourself. And there are some times that I do know people with good intentions. And Brittany and I, we've known each other for, we go way back, and we've been around spaces where we might have been the only Black girl in the classroom. And we might have been in spaces where you find yourself having to kind of somewhat assimilate, because that's what you're with every single day in school and in workspace and whatnot. But it's just really important sometimes too for people to take it upon themselves to learn. The same way that I could be resourceful and find out information about your heritage and about your culture, you can do the same thing for me. And not, like you said, in Black History Month where it's 28 days and we're all talking about the same people over and over again. Like, go watch 13. That'll open up your eyes, go watch other movies, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's going to open up your eyes. It's not all about just what they put out. Because another thing that, and this, I could go on about this one, but the way that systemic racism is so ingrained in our everyday life, and particularly in our education system, and even us as Black children going through the education system, we don't learn about our history. Like, our history, the way they teach us, it starts from slavery. And you think that we're like, when you do that to little Black children, you're automatically going to think of yourself as an oppressed people, right? So when you have the right tools to know that we didn't start off in chains, you understand? We started off as kings and queens. We were stolen from our land and we were brought somewhere else, right? So when you start to see that and think that way and see all of the ways that we've been oppressed and how in a lot of ways we have overcome, that to me, if someone comes to me with that, I'm like, you're an ally, because you've taken the time now to understand what it is, to understand some of the struggles, and to realize maybe your privilege, or how you can rectify some of your mistakes or the mistakes of those around you, and how you can now advocate for Black people and for Black lives. And that to me is like, once you do that, I'm like, you know what? You're invited to the cookout. Look, a little bit, but like you can come to the barbecue.
I completely agree with that. And even with that, and something, Britt, that you said made me think about, it's like educating yourself, right? And it's like, yeah, it's like watching different documentaries, Googling different things, but also you have to take into account the Black people in this case that are around you, right? So every Black person might have a different personal experience. So I don't need you to be more down than I am. So it's kind of like, if I'm having this difficult conversation with you of like, hey, these are the boundaries, right, to your allyship, or trying to educate you from my personal experience, I think you have to also be open to that, right? Because sometimes people, they're so down, right, that they don't realize, but it's not your experience.
That's
right? Or it's like they're so down that they don't understand that some of the things that they do still perpetuate some of these microaggressions, right? Still perpetuate some of these stereotypes in the way that folks see us in society. And so for me, it's kind of like, okay, educate yourself, right, for the general topic of things, but then also be open when someone that's in that group comes to you, right, and saying, hey, let me educate you though on why you could do things a little bit differently still as an ally. I feel like they have to be open to that conversation, because
some of them
it might
not.
happen. Exactly.
And some of them are not. I mean, there's times when I've had to be like, why am I even trying to have this conversation? You know, because it's like hitting like, oh, what do you mean systemic racism? Because I don't, and I'm like, you know, and at this point I'm like, all right, well, I just, you know, like what else am I going to say and do? So you're right. They have to be open to having those conversations and to really receiving the message, you know, and that's not always easy.
Exactly. Knowing that my experience is not to benefit you in any way. You can't just,
that's a word.
I don't know, like that. I just feel like a lot of people tend to use our experience to kind of low-key, like, how many times have y'all been labeled as like the token friend? Like, Alicia, you were talking about us being the only Black person in the classroom.
Literally my life.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's so sad. Not. I think as I got older, and I'm from a Caribbean American background, so my house and my family and immediate surroundings is very multicultural, and it's Black, you know what I mean, or Asian and Hispanic, but it was like in school. I mean, there was a few classes in elementary school I was like the only Black person, and then I remember going to middle school and being like, oh my God, there's more Black people, like I was like, oh, it's a thing, you know? And like high school, by then I was like, okay, most of my friends that I surrounded myself, I had a huge group of friends, but I mean, I started to be like, okay, no, I'm going to like ride with, you know what I'm saying, with people who are Black, but it's just, it's challenging, because when you're in those situations, you do become the token person, and that is hard because you love and appreciate everyone, but you also realize, especially, I'll say this, y'all, and this might be like, digress, which is the story of my life, but I realized in this time in 2020, and just as you get older, you start to really look around and take stock of your tribe, and you start to look around and take stock of the people around you and your past experiences, and you realize that there are certain people that you've broken bread with in the past that aren't your people. And when things come to light, such as this year and the Black Lives Matter movement, all these things, you really start to see the people that you were just their token Black friend, or you were just a token Black person in your life. They really don't care about your family, or realize that you come from, a Black mother and a Black father, and you have Black family members. They don't even think about that. So that was a hard realization for me the last couple years. But once you get that, it's kind of like, duly noted. You know what I mean? And that's just where I am right now. Maybe I could be less petty, but that's just where I am right now.
No, I feel you. You don't understand how many times I pressed blocked, and like in the past day or two, I'm just like, Jesus, I didn't even know. You really think people are truly your friends, and the part that gets me, and this is not to dive into politics, but please stop disguising your racism with politics, because you're racist.
Don't get me started on politics. You know I'm a black one.
So I've seen it, and it's just very, very annoying. So Alicia, I'm like you. You can call me petty. You can call it whatever you want. Blocked. Don't have to deal with it because I'm not.
Yeah. I don't want to see it. At this point, I'm like, there's no reason to try to reason with someone and make excuses for them in your head or try to have a conversation. Right. I'm like, if you're already there, like, okay. And I just remove it from my atmosphere and my energy. Like, I don't need it if that's where you are. So that's why, to me, it's really important for people to kind of like bringing it back that, again, being an ally is not just saying, you're my black friend and I love you. No, there's so much more to that. You have to be able to like advocate, for Black lives and even in the LGBTQ community. I mean, that's another one too. Like, there's so many people that are like, oh, I'm an ally. Like I have a gay friend or my best friends. And it's like, yeah, but are you really advocating for their life? You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's another thing too. And we can talk about, I mean, there's so many marginalized groups, but that's another example. And you really have to not only be an ally, you have to advocate. And once I think people get that, maybe the world will be a better kumbaya, at some point. Maybe we can all get there.
Maybe we can, right? And the last thing that I really want to say about this is also thinking about like white guilt, right? I don't need you to be an ally if your motivation is if you're coming from a place of this white guilt thing, because then you also have this white savior complex, right? Like, I don't need you to save me, right? Like, it's not that for me. Because like Britt said, like, I can't take this off, right? Like, I'm very comfortable. I honestly think it's a privilege to be Black, right? Like, I'm very comfortable being Black. I believe it's one of the best things. I don't know what else I want to be, right? And so for me, I'm realizing that's also one of the things. It's like, you have to understand your motivation for why you are an ally for any, Alicia, going to your point, for any group that you feel that you're an ally for. What is your motivation? Is it this guilt that you have and you feel like you need to save that group, right? Or is it really you have a genuine love and understanding for humanity, right? And how these certain systems they just have to shift and change.
Absolutely. I agree. That's a word right there, because I think white guilt snaps. I think white guilt is that's a whole podcast for another day, because I don't know if we can wrap it up on that one, because that's true. You have a lot of people that are almost trying to like you said, the white savior, and rectify, their wrongs by being like, and it's like, I don't want to hear it, honestly. Like, you have to do the work, you have to do the work, but like I said, I'm hopeful always. I think that I have seen a lot of movement from people, some whom I haven't expected to be that way. Other people I would have expected nothing less, because that's just who they are as people. And that's been really nice. Even though it's been such a rough year for a lot of people, and it's just been heavy for Black people. I mean, the other day I said it, your Black friends we need a break. Like, just give us a minute. You know what I mean? We're going through a lot right now. But it has been refreshing to see some of these, certain companies and people that you might know or not know, just really kind of go out on the front lines for you. And it's like, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. So shout out to the people that are true allies. I'd like to acknowledge them too, because it's not only about like define what an ally is, but there's some people that are really out there on the front lines, whatever it is, however they decide to take
protesting
action. Exactly. That's the key word: advocate and action. Whatever you're doing for those action steps, we do appreciate you. We see you. Just like we don't see the other ones. We see y'all, and we thank you. And seriously, we thank you. And I think we're finally, it puts a voice to your action, a voice to your action and what you're doing, and helping to amplify it. Because I hate when people say, we finally have a voice. No, we've been had a voice. It's just being amplified right now.
That's it.
So shout out to everyone.
You gotta preach, Deacon Brittany. You gotta preach, girl.
Hello. That's yes. I think I couldn't have said it any better, right? So if you are an ally, right? Shout out to you if you are a true ally. if people around you haven't given you the side eye lately, maybe that's time for you to take inventory and really think about it, right? Like it might not always be coming from a bad place, but really a place for you to truly line up with what you are calling yourself, right? For whatever cause it is for. So we appreciate y'all. Alicia, we are so thankful that you have come to join us on this episode. And can you just tell everyone like where they can find you, your social, your website, anything like that?
Yes. Thank you again. Before I even get into that, thank you for having me. I'm always, down to have conversations like this in spaces like this, if you will, and in platforms like this. So I'm happy to have been on. So I am on social media. I'm Hey Alicia Hey on Instagram, Twitter, Twatter, Facebook, whatever. You can find me there. Hey Alicia Hey. So check me out. I do have a podcast. It's a Chit Chat Conocera podcast. So I talk about, topics like this as well. We've been talking about mental health lately and finances. So I get into all of that. It's just chit chat, and we have special guests and subject matter experts. So that's the Chit Chat Conocera. And my blog is heyalicia.com. So you can check me out there. I love to connect and have guests on my podcast or, special guest bloggers, whatever it is, I'm here. So check me out, y'all.
That's amazing. So y'all, we have had another amazing episode of Small Talk, where today we had 3 queens, 3 perspectives, 1 topic. We will see y'all on the next episode. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Bye.